You counter guys working at the jobber stores can tell your customers that the standard mixing ratio from the carrier base coat to the effect pack is 3:1. But that doesn't mean I couldn't put 4 ounces of this material, the metal loom, into a mix and put 3 ounces of Kosmoski into the mix, or 4 ounces, and have my 8 ounces. The main thing to remember is it's 3 parts of the carrier base to 1 part of the effect pack. Now that doesn't mean I couldn't use 2 ounces of each one of these to get my 8 ounces, but you need to know the painter has to have the creativity to make sure he's mixing components that will go together and give him the effect that he wants. So that's part of the creativity factors. 3:1 is what you need to remember, and then reduce them like our standard old Shimrin bases. The Shimrin2s, once they're mixed, are reduced 2:1 with the reducer based on the temperature in the shop that's going to give you controllability. I want the jobbers, and particularly you counter guys out there, to pay attention to the mixing ratios on the transnebulae or the S2 SG100, which is the new version of completely clear SG100. This has a cloudy effect to it, and that's caused by the encapsulation polymer that orients the materials. Now, I like to pre-reduce this 2:1. In other words, 2 parts of the transnebulae to 1 part reducer, and then slowly add the effect pack and stir it, and look at the stir stick. And if you see the platelets dancing down the bottom, that's good. If you see them running down in a cloudy draw, you may have put too much in, and it's going to be difficult for the painter to apply it and make it work. In other words, it's going to want a blotch, it's going to want a streak, he's going to get some issues there, and he's going to come back in your face. Let them know that we do have the ratios in the book that give you the basic startup mixing formulas for the transnebulae or for the S2 SG100, so they don't overdo it. Most painters tend to put in too much of this material when they're spraying a clear over a contrasting base. Now understand, you can put more in when the base is light, like as a white or a gray base. When you're putting it over black, you have to pull back and not have quite so much in there. The painters will figure it out, and it is in the book, but I want you counter guys to understand the principles of putting this material into a clear, and that's the way it works. Well, we've been kind of dazzling you with a lot of information. I think it's time to get our stuff into a mixing situation. Let's go over to the color wall and pick a color and actually mix it in front of you and show you how simple it is. This is the color wall that we've talked about. Look at all the beautiful, exciting colors, and these are all base coats. There's no candies involved here. This is all done with our carrier base coats and our additive packs. Let's pick a color that's going to work for us. How about a nice blue, a nice metallic-y blue? Look at that. That's a beautiful color. Now you're wondering how to make it. On the back side, there's our formula. Exactly what we need to mix that color. One of the things that you jobbers and counter people are going to enjoy is once you pull one of these little cars off the rack, on the back side of it is the primer that was used, the carrier base coat that was used, and the effects pack that was used to make this color. And what we're showing back here is the 3000 KD 3000 primer over S204 over S2 FX03. So let's see if we can match this car using that formula. So let's take some of this. We also make mixing containers. This one shows graduations up to 11 ounces, and this one shows graduations up to 64 ounces, but they will have obviously carry more material if you need to mix a little bit more than what they're showing. All the ratios are shown on the can, and we know we're going to do a 3:1, so that's the first thing we're going to do is set this down, and we're going to go to a 3 with our toner. Now the most important thing to remember on the carrier base coats is that you stir them well prior to use, and the effects pack being a concentrate, I think it's extremely important that you either take the lid off and stir it somewhat or shake it extremely well and long time. If you have a shaker, it's great. So let's take and see if we can mix that color. This has already been pre-stirred. So we're going to get to the 3 on the lower end. We don't need to mix a whole lot of color to show you that this system is going to work. There we're on the 3 mark. Now, by hitting the next 3 mark with this material, we should accurately mix this color. I hate these little tabs, but you have to have them to keep them child-proof. All right, now we go up to the next 3 with our effects pack, and let's stir this and see how close we come to the color that we're showing. Doesn't take much stirring to see that here comes the color. And it's a dead match. Of course, it's hard to tell from stirred paint versus sprayed paint, but you can see we're in the ballpark, and we have created this color. Now the only thing necessary to spray this is to reduce it 2 to 1. 2 parts of base to 1 part reducer. And again, pick the reducer that's best suited for the temperature in that shop, because that's the key item. But now we go ahead and spray this, and we have created one of the new base colors, and they're absolutely gorgeous. And just think about this, we could build this 150 different ways by changing an effects pack. How easy is that? Another point I'd like to make to you jobber and countermen is that we did show the KD 3000 primer used on that panel that we painted, if you remember that, and that's this gray right here. But there's no reason not to use a blue, a darker color, you know, to get and what we do a lot of times is we'll take some of that paint and spray it over this card. This particular type of cardboard is resistant to spray. You can spray on it, it's not going to wrinkle up, it's not going to delaminate, it's made as a shade card. And this can be kept with information written on the back of what you did, and you can literally show this to your customers and say, well, look, this is the combination we get when we go over the lighter shade, but what about this if we go over a darker blue or we go over a lighter blue? How much of a change are we going to get? You will now know that by using this card, and I do it all the time, particularly when I'm working with transnebulae and some of the clearer colors, or when I want to do a pearl check to see if it's going to model or blotch. This is a great way to do it before you get out on the job. Make sure everything looks like it's working right. Always have a bright light nearby so that you can light the thing up and study what you're doing. But it's a great tool, and you will enjoy working with this. I recommend that if you're dealing with some custom painters, that they buy these by the block. They're sold 25 to a pack, and that's the way to do it, because you're going to want them in your shop for doing this testing. And remember, don't throw them away. If you write on the back of what you did, this is an additional color card for you to use to your customers for selling paints. And that's what it's about. For those of you that are looking for more variations, the computer savvy people, go online and look at our quick mix, and you can bring up thousands of variations of each color with a different effects pack, and it really does help you guys so you don't make mistakes mixing things, but thousands of combinations are on that unit. Check it out. You're going to enjoy it. It's going to make things a lot easier for the jobber store people and you counter people as well.